Welcome to Talent Talk. Hosted by Fred Scott, author, educator, and founder of TalentFRED, this podcast brings real, unscripted conversations that help you grow and thrive using his talent framework. Triumph, achieve, lead, educate, nurture, and thrive. Fred's got a special guest with him today, so stay locked in and don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Now, here's TalentFRED and his guest.
Well, everybody, I'm excited about having Dr. Jeremy Owoh with us today. And I'm going to go ahead and get started and say the following. Thank you to the audience, our listeners, and everybody who's here. We are in for a special treat. And Dr. Owoh, could you tell us a little bit about yourself to the audience to share just a little bit about your journey? Also, how you began in education, because that's my passion there, and the path that led you where you are today.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Scott. It's definitely a blessing to join you today and be able to just to share my background and the profession that I love, which is education. Born and raised in Camden, Arkansas, South Arkansas. My mom, at an early age, she instilled in us, my brothers and I, the love for reading. And I had really great English teachers. And so much so that when I started my undergraduate years at the University of Central Arkansas, I became an English education major. And so that my earlier years, as well as my high school career, really played an important role in my decision in becoming an English educator. So I started off as an English educator here in Little Rock, Arkansas, in the Little Rock School District at one of the arts and science magnet schools. Loved teaching ninth and 10th grade English. So I did that for a number of years. While still going to graduate school, I was working on my master's and my specialist degrees. So I completed those two degrees and then moved on into administration. So I became an assistant principal at another high school here in Central Arkansas. Loved that, but only did that for 1 year and then became a principal, middle school principal, and then a high school principal. And I actually served as the high school principal for about 4 years. And then Brother Scott got a one in a lifetime, I feel like, opportunity to come to a school district. So my current district, where I am now, in 2014 was approved to separate from an existing school district. And so
Oh, wow.
Pulaski County Special School District does a donut around Little Rock and North Little Rock, and Jacksonville was the northeast quadrant of that donut. And the
Gotcha.
community had been petitioning and championing to have their own school district for about 30 years. And in 2014, it was granted. And so I got the opportunity to apply for the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction position and was hired for that position and had 1 year to transition with the existing district. So we literally built, as my superintendent at that time said, we were building the airplane in flight. But it was a great experience, a great professional experience, learning experience. And so I did that for 2 years. I served as assistant superintendent and then I received a phone call from our Secretary of Education, Commissioner of Education at that time, Johnny Key for the state of Arkansas, and asked if I would be willing to serve as assistant commissioner. And so I accepted and I served as Assistant Commissioner for Educator Effectiveness and Licensure for 2 years. And then he appointed me Superintendent for Pine Bluff School District. And
Oh,
so,
really?
yes, sir. So I went there, still worked for the state because the state took authority of the Pine Bluff School District. So still worked for the state, but served as the superintendent. Did that for 2 years and then got the opportunity to come back to Little Rock School District as deputy superintendent and thought I was going to be there for the long haul. But
Surprise, surprise.
surprise, surprise. And I got the opportunity I got a call from the board president here in Jacksonville and asked if I would be willing to come back as superintendent. And I did. And I've been here for 5 years now and love it. When we first started the school district, we made a promise to the community that we were going to build all brand new school districts and have competitive salaries. And 10 years later, I can honestly say we have done it. When I came back as superintendent, we finished the four remaining buildings. And so now all of our young people, all of our scholars are able to matriculate from kindergarten through 12th grade in brand new buildings. So,
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing your career and journey. Just like many educators, especially superintendents who are in the space, they started somewhere, and most of it was either in elementary, middle, or high as a teacher, and you hear your passion is going from that space into administration, then into the next one to the next one, and that's been a phenomenal journey for you. Uh, and that's why I wanted to say about leadership as a superintendent. As a superintendent of your district, and I'll say this to the audience again, he's the superintendent of Jacksonville, North Pulaski, and he gave you a little history there. How do you balance the responsibilities of leading a district and the need to innovate? Because right now in the world of K through 12, they're always looking for innovation and preparing the students for a rapidly changing world.
well, I'll tell you, as superintendent, have never taken that role for granted. In fact, when I started teaching, my goal was to always to become a superintendent because I wanted to be in position to have the most impact. And teachers
Wow.
have a great and meaningful impact. But I tell you, as a teacher, I only saw those 30 students per year. As a superintendent, I'm able to touch 4,300 students every year, and that was my goal professionally to be able to be in a role where I can ensure that all young people had opportunities. They knew about those opportunities and they were prepared for those opportunities. And so when we talk about innovation, that has always been part of my professional goals and outlook is to make sure that we were always ahead of the curve. And I tell you, I used to think one-to-one initiatives with technology was innovative. It's not. We quickly learned that during the pandemic, but really, when we're looking at generative AI and other type of innovative technology that's rapidly coming our way, and the things that our young people are immersed in outside the school day, why could they not be immersed and learn those and utilize those same tools and resources during the school day? But added to that is the teaching part of it, the appropriate use of those innovative technology tools. But you also have to take time to teach and prepare and support our educators who are also supporting and educating our young people. And so as a superintendent, I get to do that every day. And that's what makes my work exciting because I've always been a learner. We always hear about being a lifelong learner. And I think as a superintendent, you never reach a peak where you stop learning. As your students, as your staff members, that change every year in their learning style, their needs change every year. You should be equipped, you should be prepared to meet those needs as they change and come. And so that what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me going and making sure that I'm thinking outside the box. I'm challenging my team to think outside the box so that we prepare our young people to be competitive for life after their 12th grade year.
Appreciate you sharing that. And you hit two loves of mine. You talked about curriculum, teacher methodology. You also talked about um, um, what we can do with technology and innovation, et cetera. And you have demonstrated, I served as a teacher, I served in curriculum instruction. I'm in the role that I want to lead to impact more. So I want to talk about your national leadership because I think this is why I wanted the audience to know a little bit more about you. ASCD and ISTE. For those folks who are out there going, well, what is that? Is that, in education, what does that mean? There's the Association of Curriculum, Society of Curriculum and Development. And then there was the International Society of Technology and Education, which I was been a member of forever and a day. And had the opportunity to write for ISTE and be a part of ASCD. And it was always great to see the two together. Well, guess what? To our audience, the two combined together. And this man is serving as the national president of ASCD and ISTE, which gives you a unique platform to influence education nationally. And I can hear what you're doing with your district, but how do you see these roles and your vision that you're doing within the district shape or help future leaders and future teachers with teaching and learning? Because your core, like you said, it's about teaching and learning. It's not just all the technology tools. And in my 40 years of experience, I've watched computers go into the classroom and I kept going, oh, what can I do with this to empower what I'm doing in the classroom and also with the students? And then I was able to do that at a district level. So I would like you to share with us just a little bit about the two organizations who's come together and your role as the president of the two that's combined together.
Thank you. So, yes, Brother Scott, you are spot on when you talked about the two organizations. Both are powerhouses and were powerhouses in their own right. Because when you think about ASCD was always 1943, I believe, when the organization started. And they had always and have always been grounded in curriculum and instruction, content, pedagogy, leadership, support, and resources. And then you have the powerhouse in ed tech, which is ISTE, who internationally known, both internationally known, but ISTE was always had a major presence in the ed tech field for pedagogy and educational technology and the implementation in K-12 and higher educational systems. And to me, as a superintendent, bringing them together under one roof was a game changer because when I look at how my district is divided, I have curriculum instruction over here, leadership over here, then I have my ed tech over here. They should have always been talking, always talking. And really when we talk about impact, when we talk about meaningful instruction, relevant instruction, those two entities should have been talking a long time ago. So when ISTE and ASCD merged together, when we brought them together, it changed the landscape of education, but also professional development and learning. And so this past year, we had our first co-location conference in San Antonio, and to see the ASCD learners and members who have always been ASCD to come together with the ISTE life learners and members. It was a powerful sight to see because then you could start it really. We always talked about how ed tech tools and innovative technology should always be resources and supplemental tools to curriculum instruction. But now these groups are learning together, which should have always been happening. Should have always been happening. So as the board president for it, I get to be able to speak to the staff, to the rest of the board, to the membership internationally as a practitioner, someone who has been in the classroom, who continues to work in the classroom because I teach adjunct at the collegiate level, but also one who is able to guide and support from a district leader perspective. And that's been meaningful. This summer, I was able to attend ASCD Ghana, and
Mm.
that was an experience to be able to share on behalf of the international organization, but also from the perspective of a practitioner from the U.S. on teaching and learning, what it means for us, what it means to engage students, have authentic engagement, what it means to implement innovative technology, and to hear some of the same struggles that we have, that our sisters and brothers over in Ghana and Africa as a whole, because we had other educators from throughout the continent and even other countries there in attendance. But to hear, I was like, we're not that much different. And we have the same issues, we have the same concerns, we have the same passion, we have the same drive, but to collaborate. I mean, I tell you, if anyone ever has the opportunity to collaborate with educators outside of their system, outside of their state, outside the country, they need to take that opportunity on, because to be able to collaborate with educators from around the world, it helped
Wow.
really frame my work and change my outlook and perspective on a lot of approaches to teaching and learning.
Will not believe this, but the last time I presented at ISTE, that was about 500 people in the room. I ended with, we spent a lot of time investing in hardware and software and knowing all the techniques and the features inside of that. But we need to spend more time with humanware. And it's about that humanware, and that curriculum and instruction and technology should be in the same room. They should not be separate entities. And someone from Thailand came over and they spoke to me about it. And I was like, if we continue to have our world here and curriculum and instruction over there, when do we merge together? And you're in a great space to watch those two powerhouses merge together. And I couldn't have been more happy about the two coming together. And then I'm like, you're the national president too. And at that same time, my term that I said about humanware was reflecting on people who are using the technology tools, because they have to have the methodologies, the pedagogy to implement it to impact kids and use 21st century learning tools. So I feel that it can unlock their potential in a district. And I want to talk about that with you, where some superintendents who are first year, or some superintendents who are out there, or they've been in it for a while, as well as other leaders in a district, they may be saying, you know, you're talking to him, Fred, but we want to know what strategies or initiatives has he found effective in helping students, educators, and leaders in their district to reach their full potential. I did hear you mention a couple of things, but go ahead and just talk about some things that you've seen across the world, and you shared even when you went across to Ghana. They're still over there. And yes, people, other countries are still feeling the same thing.
They are. And I tell you, so from my role as superintendent, I know that um, policies, rules, procedures, and a lot of the decision making, a lot of my staff leaders depend on those things to be able to do their work. And so I wanted to make sure that there, and I always tell people my role as superintendent is to remove barriers and roadblocks to teaching and learning, and to make sure that there's access for students, access for staff members to be able to teach and learn. And so one of the things that we did, and I had the opportunity, I realized that I'm very fortunate to have access to Richard Collada, who is our CEO for ISTE ASCD. He came to my district, and they're willing to do this. Not just Richard, but other supports and individuals from ISTE and ASCD to work with districts. But Richard came and he worked with us about our technology policy, and I worked with our team on to not have a list of don'ts. A lot of times districts have a list of don'ts. Don't do this with technology. Don't do this. Don't do this. But you never really have an acceptable use of it. How to do it. How to use it. And so we really changed our outlook on how we approach technology integration, and even as we approach the use of generative AI, how do we use it? So are we taking a proactive approach to it? And so we rewrote our policy to implement the appropriate use for the students and for teachers and staff on using innovative technology. So that was the first thing, to set the foundation and to make sure that we were promoting that. And then we looked at the training. If we expect our students to be able to use it, we need to expect our teachers and leaders to be able to use it effectively and scholarly as well, because they're teaching it and they're supporting it in the classroom and in the school building. So we made sure that our professional development, our professional learning opportunities that we offered at the district or in the district did that. So it's not, and it wasn't a one size fits all. That was another decision we made, because we knew that just like our students had different learning styles and different learning levels, our educators also have different learning styles and learning levels. And so we launched a completely tiered approach to professional development, professional learning, in all subject areas, but specifically in innovative technology, so that and it's ongoing and consistent. So building the infrastructure. And then we also made sure that when I go to ISTE and ASCD, I don't go solo. So I take a team. I take my library, my media center specialist, I take curriculum staff, I took principals, I took technology, so that when we're there, we're learning together. And so when we make a decision, it's a well-informed decision or discussion from all aspects. And I even took it a step further when I talk to my students. So I have student groups, and I always get their input on certain areas. And we talked about technology, innovative technology, what classroom instruction, engagement, things of that nature. So when we make decisions on our teaching and learning here, our instruction, delivery, and approach, we want to make sure we have everyone involved and everyone voices. You always talk about, people always talk about getting other voices, the student voice, the teacher voice. Well, we want to actively get that consistently, so that when we make decisions, we're making the best decisions.
All right, so I'm going to see if I can sum it up for you, what you just shared. So for those school districts who are out there who are saying, we got barriers, we got roadblocks, and we need help in moving forward, because technology is always, it's going to change. It's going to consistently change. I've seen that too. And having ASCD and ISTE, to maybe somebody to come in to help look at the tech policy, to kind of rewrite that, because it's going to constantly change, and having that open dialogue about, hey, we want to have something that says what's acceptable. I remember when I was in instructional technology and leading that in my district, we kept saying no, no, no. And I said, the kids going to keep saying yes, 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 and they're going to go around it. So then the second thing is, once you put that in place, professional development, professional learning, whatever the term or terminology that different districts are using, is critical to embed that, because all of your employees, from the leaders to the teachers, everybody needs to be involved with that. Then the third thing is making sure that infrastructure has a tiered approach, that people are all involved. I love the fact that you said when they go to the conference, because sometimes I've heard, and I'm still working in the ed tech space, but I hear people going, "Oh, this is just for HR. Oh, this is just for curriculum instruction. This is just for." However, they don't understand the spaces. And I love the fact, when I was in my school district, and we used to go and listen and learn from the other departments, because we're all in there together. And the fourth thing is the student voice. The student voice. Dr. O, Jimmy said this. One time I was at a technology conference in Texas, and they brought a group of high school students to go through the vendor area and to rate them. And the rating wasn't because of, was it cool or not? Would that be something that would innovate or push boundaries of the classroom for student learning and teacher learning. And they had a whole different perspective on what they saw from what vendors were offering and what they were doing. And they had quality conversations, and that information was documented back. And I never forget taking my kids to ISTE with me. And I took them to the vendor area. And my daughter came back and said, you need to go to this vendor. Because, you know, they not only they had, she was like, in her eyes, got cool stuff, but this is what it can do. It really could change what I would be in the and she was in elementary school at the time. So the student voice, the teacher voice, and districts out there, when you bring all the parties together to look at the policy, to look at the training, to participate and have the tiered approach, it's much more successful. So when a company says we want to present a tool, everybody is on board about where's it leading to make a difference. So I want to say this as I begin to wrap up. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm most honored. And for our audience who are listening and viewing, I want you to remember a couple of things that here on Talent Talk, we're trying to bring people in to talk about how you can triumph, how you can achieve, how you can lead, educate, nurture, and thrive. And today you can hear multiple pieces of that framework that I came up with that innovates inside of that space. And we were lucky and honored to have Dr. Jeremy Owoh here today with us. Any last thoughts you want to share with the audience before I close out?
I'll leave this that, you know, just what I started with when we first started the talk is that we're all should be lifelong learners, and learning should never stop. And as our students continue to grow, as our educators continue to grow, as leaders, we need to also continue to grow. And that's when we'll have impactful change and meaningful change consistently, when all of us continue to grow and all of us are brought to the table, and our voices are heard.
Yes, sir. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners today. And we were proud and happy to have you.
Thank
Continue to
you.
make a
Thank you.
difference, not only in your district in Arkansas, but also what you're doing nationally and internationally.
Yes, sir.